Start the recording right now. All right. Awesome, Saoura. Thank you so much for taking this time to share a little bit of your experience, of your progress with the world, basically. I know this is not an easy task to do because you're like out here public.
Yeah.
Completely different to the coaching sessions we usually have, where it's basically just us in this little space, little room. But I'm super grateful that you took this time. And yeah, why don't you start by telling us a little bit about who you are?
Okay. like what in general? Like just my age and
Like
where
a
I'm from?
little, yeah, if you want to. Like it really, what it is, who you are, what you. Well, we'll come into other topics later,
Right,
but maybe just.
these. Okay. Well, I'm 19. I guess I'll start off with that. And I'm German, but I grew up quite internationally. So I don't really identify as German, but I am technically. Um, and what else? I guess I started this coaching being quite like a shy person, but kind of knowing deep down that that was not all that I was and that there was something blocking me from kind of being who I truly wanted to be. So I guess that's why I started the coaching, just because I felt kind of like I'd locked myself in this little box and like thrown away the key, and I needed support to find that key and kind of come back into being more myself and more what I thought I actually was rather than basing who I am off of the opinions other people had now created off of me because of kind of how I'd been acting for like a while. But it's not who I felt that I was. Yeah.
You felt that that past that you had was still there with you at all times, and you had like a hard time escaping from that.
Yes, basically. That's it.
So we started this journey, I think like 3.5, maybe almost 4 months ago. And it's definitely been a journey, and I enjoyed so much working with you every time. There's just like this little layer that you can't scrape off. If we start from the top, like what were your expectations coming into this coaching? What were you like, okay, I really want to work on this, or I have like different views and visions of this coaching, and then how did it actually turn out to be?
That's hard because I don't think I really had expectations really. I kind of came into it quite open and just being like, okay, let's see what happens and let's see if I can kind of start peeling back those layers. I think I was a little bit scared because I didn't really trust myself to really be able to kind of break free from these kind of habits and beliefs that I'd created for myself. So I think it's actually quite a surprise to me that I really, really felt a difference because I didn't actually trust in myself to be able to. That's been quite nice and a nice experience to have.
I'm
Yeah.
so happy to hear that. Yeah, it's definitely it's a lot of times that people feel like, oh, but I cannot change because I've never really changed before.
Yeah.
So why even try now? But it's so good to actually be like, yes, I can do it, and I really want to see where this goes. So the first step of you saying, yes, I want to change is like the first step of like, I'm gonna get into my new identity. So you've talked about how you've changed during this progress. What was like the most surprising thing that you took out of this, or how did this transformation happen within you?
I don't know. I think the key to me was that I just have a lot more inner confidence now. Like in very subtle ways though. Like before I'd be scared to even talk in like a public situation, not because I was scared of talking, but because I wasn't confident in what I was saying. And I would always be like, oh, well, what are people going to think when I say this? Is this the right thing? Is this the wrong thing? So the entire conversation, I would just spend thinking about what I wanted to say and not say anything because then the conversation was over. And I feel like in moments like that now, I just feel because I feel confident within myself, I can just speak freely, almost like kind of like a lot more than I was able to. or like actually approach people and speak to them a lot more easily, just because I'm not judging myself as much as I was before, because nobody was going to judge me for what I was saying. I was judging myself for what I was thinking of saying, even though it was a completely normal thing to say. So I feel like that's kind of been the biggest thing for me. And that kind of confidence has just kind of spread into my life a little bit. Like this morning, this is very vain, but I was getting ready and I was like, I look so good. I never used to say that. I was looking in the mirror, I was like, I look so good. And I never used to say that. And it's little things like that, which people would see as vain, but I'm like, it's great that I feel good in myself, because I usually don't really ever.
It's so
But yeah.
awesome. I love that. Just this confidence of saying like, yes, actually I am good and I look
Yeah.
good and I have this confidence, like I'm gonna put it out there.
Because society kind of tells you that like you're not allowed to find yourself that like pretty or like attractive or something like that. And then I was just like, no, I look good today. And I can own the fact that I look good today. Yeah.
And it makes you so much more confident as well. Like you told me you have an interview after this, so there you go. Take that confidence with it and you're gonna smash it, girl. But yeah, it's definitely that. In society, there's a lot of like these outside things that are happening. I also read into how a lot of successful women get shamed for being successful, and they become less seen, or they become less loved in society. But if men get more success, then they are more powerful and they're more attractive and stuff like that. So there's this thing of like, okay, we're as women, we kind of also like put ourselves down because that's what society kind of tells us to do, which is also kind of crazy.
Yeah, I had that conversation with my mother actually, which was really weird, because through the coaching, I felt a lot more open to talk to my mom about it. And I had to talk to my mom about the fact how when she looks in the mirror, the first thing she sees is something negative. And she was like, yeah, but that's just what it's like. And I was like, that's not what it's supposed to be like. But it was so ingrained in her, just like it is, and kind of still is, but was in me. The first thing you see is something negative usually. But why? It's not the way it's supposed to be.
It's not the way it has to be, definitely.
Yeah, it really is.
Learn it from all of these patterns, negative beliefs that you have inside of you, people telling you it has to be that way, or you learn from also like media. There's a lot of stuff portrayed there as well. So yeah, it's such a big thing. It's such a big thing, but I'm so happy, so glad that you could step out of that a little bit and just be like, hey, I'm Saoura and I'm living this life and I love it. And I don't let any stigmas, any other realities take over my life, basically, which is amazing. How was the journey for you in general? Like, did you feel comfortable? Was it scary at times? What was like the whole process of like getting to know you?
I mean, it was definitely scary. It was definitely very scary. And there was always like mixed emotions. Like sometimes after a call, I would feel like really great and like happy and empowered. And sometimes everything had been like so deep that I would just sit there and I would like start crying sometimes because it was so much. And I'd spent like an hour after the call still like letting it all sink in and letting it process. And um, so yeah, it was definitely scary to kind of go that deep into your beliefs and your thoughts and stuff like that, because I think I tend to kind of just push it away and be like, okay, you can just sit there while I continue on with my day. And then at some point, it all just comes like crashing down. But rather than doing that, I kind of just started letting the thought in when it came and resolving it rather than piling them all up in a pile and letting them come to me a week later. So yeah, but it was a good journey, but definitely scary. Very scary.
But yeah, scary is good sometimes because scary means
Yeah.
that you're getting out of your comfort zone. And as you said, instead of pushing everything away, basically putting it in that storage room in the back of your head and being like, no, I'm not gonna go there. But you're actually like opening this door little by little, like as much as you feel comfortable, and letting it sink in and also integrate it. like for me, I don't know what's happening after the call. So we say goodbye, and then I don't know if you start crying or being like dancing and stuff like that. So hearing all of this also makes me
Yeah.
feel very emotional and also very vulnerable, because I basically like lead you to that point. Like everything you do, basically you do yourself.
Yeah.
I'm just guiding you there. But it's amazing to hear that you're actually accepting it, and like crying is so healing, because then you
Yeah.
really let everything go and you're just like, yes, I want it and I accept it, and I basically let it flow through me, so that you let your energies be free again and not being stopped by some belief, some thought, some stone in the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. How is the difference from like yourself from like 3-4 months ago and now? I mean, you already touched it a little bit, but what is like the key thing?
I mean, a lot has changed in those 3 months, like both mentally and like physically where I am. Like I'm in a whole different country now again. Um, and I feel like before the move, when we kind of started, I think we had like a month before I moved. Don't quite remember. But before then, I was putting a lot of kind of pressure, being like, when I move, I have to be a completely different person and I need to just be who I want to be. And then I moved, obviously, and that didn't happen because nothing just happens overnight. Um, but then I actually kind of just accepted the fact that the journey was gonna take longer, and that I wasn't just like from one week to another going to be the person that I wanted to be and kind of get rid of those negative thoughts. Um, but yeah, I do feel like I'm different. I definitely am, but I feel like I've realized that I can't change that much in a short amount of time, but that it's more about learning how to be able to kind of change your beliefs and your thoughts so that you can keep doing it. Kind of. Yeah.
Yeah, you're changing basically every single second, but also these changes can be so subtle that you don't really recognize it. So it's really nice to also look at the past you from like 3 months ago, 6 months ago, a year ago, and to be able to actually see the progress that you've made. Maybe also through different exercises, journalings, and stuff like that. Are you going to be there on Saturday? Because we're going to do a little exercise, which is really nice.
Yes.
Okay, awesome.
I now finally have an Amazon Alexa, which is telling me and reminding me of everything I have to do every hour. I forget everything, always. So I needed a vocal thing that would tell me.
You're like, now, meeting.
Basically, or in the morning, the first thing it does when I wake up is tell me to take my medication.
Okay, yeah, that's also important.
Because I'm a mess when it comes to remembering
Maybe I
stuff.
should also get an Alexa.
It's very useful, actually.
Yeah.
Because it just doesn't give up. If you don't respond to the reminder, it goes again in 5 minutes. It's like, excuse me, you have to do this now. Do it. Yeah.
Okay, I'll check it out. Another question, what was like the biggest learning from this whole journey? Like what was the main thing that has helped you the most? Or like one thing, if it's too hard to find one.
Well, the thing that helped me the most, which is my favorite, like I think it's called analogy, I'm not sure, was kind of when things get too much and you get overwhelmed, that you like zoom out on yourself and you kind of see how small it really is. And, like zoom further out, like zoom out and then you're in your room and then you're like on like a map and then you just see, and the end you just see planet Earth and you're like, okay, it's really not that big. That was kind of the biggest thing that kind of helped me. And I do that a lot because a lot of the times I get so overwhelmed with something. I'm like, oh my God, this is everything. I'm so stressed. And then I kind of realize it really isn't. It's really just a small thing. And once you make something smaller, it kind of becomes easier to digest and to process.
Definitely. Yeah, our brains sometimes cannot grasp everything. Like you cannot grasp huge numbers or huge problems, and then it's just like, oh my God, I'm just gonna hide under my blanket.
Yeah.
But when you actually make it smaller like that, or also break down the problems into smaller steps that you can achieve like one by one, then it actually becomes more achievable. So yeah, I love this technique also.
Yes.
Okay, I think like last question, who would you suggest this coaching is for? Like what people, or how, it's a difficult question to ask, but who is this for, basically?
I think it's for anyone,
For
really.
anyone.
I mean, yeah, anyone who has the, like, how can I word this? Let's think. Like, for anyone who has the kind of motivation to want to change something or to want to break down negative beliefs, like all you really need to get started is that little bit of motivation. You know, like you can feel like, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to do this. I'm not going to be able to break down all these beliefs and it's never going to be better. But if you have that little bit of motivation and that little bit of like, you know what, no, I can, that's all you need to kind of get started. Because at the beginning, I was like, nothing's going to change. But I wanted something to change. And I had that little bit of, but I want this. And that just kind of then, through support, it's developed into everything. So I feel like anyone who has that and who just has the slightest feeling of like, maybe I want to do this, they should, because that's enough to kind of get started. Definitely.
So
But it's also always helpful to have support. And it's okay to have support. You don't need to be like, I need to do this by myself. You don't have to. There's people out there.
it's basically like a shortcut of being like, let's do this together instead of figuring it out over 10 years or something like that. No, it's so beautifully said. Thank you so much. Do you have any last words, any last thoughts that you want to say or offer the people out there?
I'm really bad at this. Just coming up with something. I don't think so. I think my biggest message is just to know that you're not alone and that there's people out there who will support you no matter what, even if you think that there isn't, because there is always.
Always. There's so much love out there, so much light, and now we've brought a little bit more light into this. I love it so much. All right, thank you, Saoura, so much for this interview, for your time. I do highly appreciate it, and also spending this time with you over the last couple of months. It's just always so amazing, and it amazes me so much how deep we can get at some points where just like all the emotions come rushing out, and after that it's basically like, what just happened? And then you need to appreciate it. But this is so beautiful. So yeah, thank you so much, and yeah, let's definitely keep this going and stay in touch.
Definitely.
Perfect. All right. Goodbye.
Bye.